You never find out your entire life is a joke because of something obvious like lipstick on a collar or a random hotel receipt. You find out because of a minor, insignificant detail that doesn't fit the puzzle. And once you pull that single thread, the whole sweater unravels. My wife and I had been married for 4 years, and for the last 6 months, I had been living in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home, and she was the one scattering them. Her entire personality had shifted from a warm, affectionate partner to someone who treated me like a highly irritating roommate. She was perpetually annoyed by my existence. If I asked her how her day was, she would roll her eyes and accuse me of interrogating her. If I suggested we order dinner, she would snap that I was suffocating her with my clinginess. She had mastered the art of making me feel like I was the crazy one. She would pick massive, explosive fights over absolutely nothing, like a cup left on the counter just so she had an excuse to grab her keys, slam the front door, and disappear for hours to clear her head. I spent months apologizing for things I did not even do, genuinely believing I was failing as a husband because that was exactly the narrative she was feeding me. But her phone habits were the real red flag. Her phone was practically surgically attached to her hand. It came into the bathroom with her. It sat face down on the dinner table. When I walked into a room, she would do that lightning-fast swipe to close out of whatever app she was on, followed by a heavy sigh, as if my walking into my own kitchen was a massive interruption to her incredibly important work emails. I never snooped. I believed that checking a partner's phone was the ultimate sign of a toxic relationship. I wanted to trust her, even as my gut was screaming at me that I was being played for a fool. The dam finally broke on a random Tuesday night. I was sitting at my computer paying the monthly credit card bills. We shared a joint account for household expenses, and she had her own separate account for personal things. I was scrolling through the joint statement when I noticed a charge for a premium rideshare service. It was for $45, dated 2 weeks prior. At 11:30 at night, I paused, staring at the screen. I remembered that specific night perfectly because I had been sick with a terrible stomach bug. I had gone to bed at 8, and she had told me she was going to stay downstairs to watch a movie so she would not wake me up. Yet, here was a receipt showing she had ordered a premium car to take her somewhere across the city while I was sweating through the sheets upstairs. I did not confront her. If I asked her about it without proof, she would just spin a web of lies, call me controlling, and turn herself into the victim. I needed to know the destination of that ride. I logged into our shared cellular provider dashboard, a boring administrative account she had completely forgotten I had access to. I pulled up the data logs for her phone number on that specific date. I matched the timestamp of the rideshare charge to her data usage. Right around midnight, her phone connected to a residential Wi-Fi network. The network name was logged on the cellular report. It was the first name and last initial of a man I recognized immediately. It was her new boss, a guy she had constantly complained about to me, claiming he was arrogant and unbearable to work with. My heart felt like it was pumping battery acid through my chest. The room started spinning, but my mind suddenly became ice cold and sharply focused. I knew exactly what I had to do next, and I knew I had to do it before she woke up. I remembered her old tablet, the one she claimed was broken and had tossed into the back of her closet months ago. I quietly walked into the guest room, dug it out from under a pile of sweaters, and plugged it into the wall. As the battery icon flickered to life, I prayed that she had been arrogant enough to leave her cloud account synced. The screen of that old tablet illuminated the dark guest room like a spotlight. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely input her old passcode. But the universe was apparently ready for me to see the truth, because it unlocked on the first try. Her messaging app had not been opened in months on this device, and for a terrifying 30 seconds, I watched the synchronization bar load thousands of hidden messages from her cloud backup. When the inbox finally populated, the very first thread pinned to the top of the screen was with her boss. The man she claimed was a narcissistic tyrant. The man she constantly complained about to justify her late hours at the office. I opened the thread, and the floor completely dropped out from under my life. There was no ambiguity. There was no room for misinterpretation or the benefit of the doubt. The messages were a meticulous, agonizingly detailed timeline of a 6-month affair. They had been booking hotels on Tuesday afternoons. They had been meeting in parking garages. But the absolute worst part, the part that physically knocked the wind out of my lungs, was reading how they talked about me. I scrolled to the date I had been violently ill with that stomach bug. While I was upstairs shivering with a fever, she had texted him a picture of me asleep on the couch, calling me pathetic and weak. She told him I was completely clueless, a comfortable safety net paying half her mortgage while she lived her actual life with him. She bragged about how easily she could manipulate me into apologizing whenever she picked a fight, treating my emotional distress like a hilarious game they were playing together. I stumbled to the bathroom and threw up. When I rinsed my face with freezing water and looked in the mirror, the sad, anxious, confused husband I had been for the last 6 months was entirely gone. Something cold and absolutely ruthless took his place. I did not want to yell. I did not want to cry. I wanted to dismantle her reality with the exact same precision she had used to dismantle mine. I spent the next 4 hours sitting in the dark, taking high-resolution photographs of the tablet screen with my own phone. I documented every date, every hotel name, every cruel joke, and every confession of their secret trips. I emailed the entire vault of evidence to a secure, brand new email address, and then factory reset the tablet, wiping it completely clean. I put it exactly back where I found it, under the pile of sweaters in her closet. The next 4 weeks were the greatest acting performance of my entire life. I woke up every single morning and made her coffee. I smiled when she complained about her boss. I apologized when she picked her usual, unhinged fights over the laundry or the dishes. I let her believe she was a criminal mastermind, completely in control of the narrative. While I was silently working behind the scenes to detonate her life, I hired the most aggressive, reputation-destroying family lawyer I could find in our city. I provided the evidence of the infidelity, which in our jurisdiction significantly impacted the division of assets. I quietly opened a separate bank account and began diverting my direct deposits, leaving only exactly enough in the joint account to cover the bare minimum bills. I secured a new apartment on the other side of the city, signed the lease, and slowly began moving my most valuable personal items and family heirlooms out of the house in my gym bag. Piece by piece, day by day, she noticed absolutely nothing. She was so wrapped up in the arrogance of her own lies that she did not even register that my closet was slowly emptying, or that the garage was completely cleared of my tools. She mistook my newfound calm demeanor for submission. She thought she had finally broken my spirit, completely unaware that I was just quietly paving the runway for my departure. The execution of my exit strategy was scheduled for a Friday. She had informed me on Wednesday that she had a massive corporate retreat that weekend and would be staying at a resort a few hours away. I knew from her sync calendar, which I still had access to, that there was no corporate retreat. She had booked a romantic weekend getaway at a boutique winery with her boss. I helped her pack her bags. I carried her suitcase to the trunk of her car. I stood in the driveway and wished her a safe trip, watching her force a fake, tight-lipped smile before pulling away. The second her taillights disappeared around the corner of our neighborhood, the timer started. I had exactly 48 hours to erase my existence from that house. I hired a professional moving crew who arrived 20 minutes after she left. They cleared out every single piece of furniture I had purchased, every electronic device I owned, and everything that held any value to me. I left her exactly what was legally hers, which amounted to a cheap sofa, a television, and a kitchen full of half-empty Tupperware. Before I walked out the front door for the final time, I left a single, thick manila envelope sitting perfectly in the center of the kitchen island. Inside that envelope were the official divorce petition papers, already filed with the court. Clipped to the front of those legal documents was a printed, full-color photograph of the rideshare receipt from the night I was sick, placed right next to a printed screenshot of the exact message where she called me a pathetic safety net. I did not leave a dramatic letter. I did not leave a heartfelt goodbye explaining my pain. I gave her exactly what she had given me for the last 6 months, absolute, chilling silence. When she returned on Sunday evening, my phone began to vibrate. It vibrated continuously for 3 straight hours. There were dozens of missed calls, followed by a frantic flood of text messages. I watched the notifications roll in from the balcony of my new apartment. First, the messages were full of manufactured outrage, demanding to know where our furniture was. Then, as she clearly found the envelope on the kitchen island, the tone violently shifted. The messages turned into a desperate, panicked barrage of apologies, excuses, and bargaining. She blamed the stress of her job. She blamed her boss for manipulating her. She begged for a conversation, promising that we could fix this through counseling. The woman who had spent half a year treating me like garbage was suddenly perfectly willing to grovel when the financial and social consequences of her actions came crashing down on her head. I never replied to a single message. I blocked her number, blocked her on all social media, and forwarded all of her subsequent emails directly to my lawyer. I completely removed her access to my energy, my time, and my voice. Looking back now, the pain of that betrayal was agonizing, but the clarity it brought was the greatest gift I have ever received. My advice to anyone reading this who feels like they are losing their mind in their own relationship is to trust your instincts. If your partner suddenly makes you feel like you are impossible to love, if they guard their phone with their life, and if they constantly make you the villain in every tiny disagreement, stop apologizing. Stop trying to fix a puzzle when they are intentionally hiding the pieces. You cannot outlove a liar, and you cannot build a safe home with someone who is secretly digging a tunnel out the back door. Collect your facts, protect your peace, and walk away in total silence. The best revenge is not screaming matches or dramatic confrontations. The best revenge is letting them wake up to an empty house, holding a mirror that forces them to look at exactly who they are.